As someone who cooks wild game meat a lot, I've always wondered whether or not a brine is actually worth it whenever you're grilling venison. So we're getting to the bottom of this. I have a big old piece of backstrap right here. I'm going to cut it up and test to see if brining your venison before you grill it is actually worth it. Here's how we're gonna do it. I have here one solid hunk of backstrap. I'm going to cut this backstrap into 3 pieces. One will be a control, one a dry brine, and one a wet brine. Then I'll grill them on my Oklahoma Joe's charcoal grill, and we will see which tastes the best. The first piece will be a control. It is going to be wrapped up and go into the refrigerator overnight. The next piece, I'm going to dry brine it. That means we are coating it completely in kosher salt, putting it on a wire rack and leaving it in the refrigerator overnight uncovered. And the last one, we'll be doing a wet brine. A wet brine is a very specific ratio of salt to water. My ratio is 1 tablespoon of kosher salt for every cup of water. I'll stir that up until it's dissolved real good, put the backstrap in the brine, cover it, and it goes into the fridge for 24 hours. They're ready to go into the fridge. I will see you guys in 24 hours. It has been 24 hours and this is looking different than I was expecting. Let me pull you in and we can take a close look at each. First, we have up our control. Now this has been wrapped up in the plastic wrap this whole time. And as you can see, some of the blood has been leaching out of here, but that looks pretty much like it did when we wrapped it up. Let me pat it dry. All right, there it is. That is our control, looking how we would expect. Now moving on to the second steak. This one was dry brined. Now I am pretty shocked at how this looks. As you can see, there is no moisture on the outside of it. It feels a little tough and dry to the touch. Let's see what the bottom looks like. I did not flip this over at all. Oh, look at that. You can see a little bit of the juice with some salt that had dripped down there, but honestly, this feels more like jerky than anything. I do not have high hopes for this one. I will also note that normally when I dry brine, I wrap it up in plastic wrap and then it basically mimics a wet brine. So that's why I chose to do it this way for the experiment. I wanted to see truly what the salt and a little bit of air would do to the meat. That one is interesting. And last but not least, we have our wet brine. Now I will want to rinse this off before we put this on the grill, but let's take a quick look. If I give this a little pat, it'll give us a good look at what the color of the meat looks like. And I can tell you, just from picking this up, I can feel the moisture, the water that has been moved into the meat from the brine. I don't know exactly how to explain it other than that. Like when I feel the brined meat versus this one, this feels so much juicier, so much more like plump compared to our control. And I think that says a lot about what we might expect from this one. This experiment is so crazy to see just like side by side. The wet brine is so much lighter in color. It's like from a gradient, the wet brine is the lightest, the control group's in the middle, and the dry brine is the darkest and richest in color. But then if we would organize it by size and volume, the wet brine and the dry brine were the same exact size when this experiment started. The wet brine has swollen up to probably bigger than our control now, and the dry brine has shrunk down. So what I would anticipate in terms of flavor is that the dry brine will be much more concentrated in flavor. The wet brine will be less concentrated in flavor, which may help reduce some of that gamey flavor that venison is so notorious for having. And I'm so glad for our control so that we have, you know, a basis somewhere to judge these other two off of. So I'm gonna go outside and fire up the grill so we can get to the bottom of this. So tonight we are cooking on one of my favorite charcoal grills ever because it is so small, portable, easy to use. This is the Oklahoma Joe's Rambler tabletop grill. So to get this guy started, I love to use a charcoal basket. It's going to light the charcoal so fast and easy. I throw a couple fire starters underneath that, get those lit. That'll light in about 15 minutes. Then I can dump it into the Rambler. When I'm grilling steak like this, I like to concentrate the charcoal on one side of the grill and then leave the other half completely open, which creates two heat zones. So I have a direct heat where the charcoal is and then an indirect heat where there's no charcoal. I'm gonna season all of these up with some freshly ground black pepper, and then on our control, because it hasn't had any salt yet, I'm going to season it with some kosher salt, but I don't need any salt on the dry brine or the wet brine. It's important to remember to open up the vents to allow airflow so that your charcoal stays lit and stays hot. We've got our grill nice and hot, ready to go. Let's get these bad boys on. That's the control. That's our dry brine. And there's our wet brine. It looks like there's a pretty good crust, so I wanna take a peek at this guy. Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? We need some oil. What was I thinking? I completely forgot to put oil on these things. No wonder they're looking as dry as the Sahara Desert. Let me grab some oil really quick. But look at the difference in the sear already from each of these different steaks. Oh my God. Always oil your steak, no matter what kind of steak it is. Oil it before you put it on the grill. So I'm gonna use a meat thermometer to monitor the internal temperature. When I pull these off the grill, they will continue to rise an additional, like about 5 or so degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm aiming around 130-ish because I want them to rise to about 135. When you put the thermometer into the meat, you want to try and make sure it's in the middle of the meat. And this one's already reading really, really high, actually. It's showing that the dry brine reached temperature really, really fast. Let's see where it's at. Okay, maybe not. No, this is saying, that's crazy. This guy's done. It's saying that it's already at 138. So I am gonna go ahead and pull the dry brine. We're at 131 and 129. We're pulling these guys off. There is our wet brine, and there is our control. Just a little extra drizzle of olive oil on all of the steaks. You can melt butter on here, but olive oil is just easy because that's what I've got close by. All right, now we'll let these sit. This is smelling so delicious. I think one of the most underrated parts of this experiment is actually the fact that we're grilling these steaks. When you grill, especially with charcoal, you get so much smoky flavor, and meat, especially wild game meat and smoky flavor, is just such a great match. So that's the first thing I'm noticing is the smell. It smells amazing. First up is our control. It looks like a perfect medium, and the juice content is about exactly what I would expect. The dry brine, on the other hand, cooked so fast. So it definitely wasn't a perfect medium rare, but that didn't stop the juice. I was not expecting there to be any juice left in this thing with how much it shrunk and how jerky-like it felt. But sure enough, when you squeeze it, there's some juice in there. And then we have our wet brine. This, of course, was juicy like we expected. Overall, like all of these, I think we did pretty good in terms of its like internal temperature and how we cooked them. But it is time for the taste test. This is like the real final review to see which method is better. Let's start with the control. We definitely could have gone farther on the flavor on this one. It's definitely on the gamier side. I think if you had some steak sauce, a little more salt and pepper, that's about what I would expect from the control. I've eaten a lot of backstrap over the years, and that's pretty typical. Let's move on to the dry brine next. Definitely picking up on more salt. Like the meat overall is definitely better seasoned. I'm still getting the smoky flavor. That's better than the control. It's got still some gaminess, but less, and the texture is better. This is something that my husband Nick talks about all the time. He doesn't like when a backstrap is mushy. He wants it to have like a little bit of bite to it. Not just a backstrap, but just like a steak in general. And I'm getting that from this dry brine. Okay, let's move on to the wet brine. One thing that I haven't touched on with those first two, moisture. I didn't notice them being particularly dry by any means, but as soon as I had a bite of this one, a lot more moisture. I feel like overall the tenderness was the same across all three. The texture is what changes between the three. I'm getting really good salt flavor and less gaminess. So this is the control. It's like overall pretty mushy. This is the dry brine, and you can really see the individual muscle fibers. And again, this is the same like piece of backstrap from the same deer. This felt the most mushy than the wet brine, than the dry brine. I've tried all three. I know who my winner is, and this has absolutely blown my mind. This is not what I was expecting. Shockingly, the dry brine's my winner. I was really expecting to like the wet brine, I'm not gonna lie. I just thought that it was gonna make it so moist and flavorful that it was gonna be, you know, worth the ugliness of the gray meat. In conclusion, salt your meat 24 hours in advance, leave it on a wire rack in the fridge for 24 hours. Your taste buds will thank you. But that is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Oklahoma Joe's products, they have so many good grills and accessories. I'll leave a link to their website in the description box down below. Also, go check out their YouTube channel. I make some content over there too. There's a lot of creators that make a lot of awesome content. So be sure to subscribe to Oklahoma Joe's, check them out. But that is it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.